Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Benji-Sales live chat. It's so good to be back. It's so good to see everybody. How are you doing today? I am glad to be back. I apologize that there was no live chat last week. I got super sick last week. So my disaster of a year that 2023 has been, the second worst year of my life. It continues to just be bad. So I apologize. I was extremely sick last week. I, of course, wanted to get a live chat in. I've been missing a ton of streams lately for various reasons, and I was just way too sick. There was no chance I could do a stream last week. So apologies for that, everyone. But we are back this week, and we've got some good topics to talk about. We've got some pretty good stuff to discuss. A couple big ones. Nothing too crazy, but definitely some good stuff. So probably one of the main things people are going to want to talk about today is something that really would have been prime discussion for last week, except for, like I said, I had to miss a chat last week, and that is that Baldur's Gate 3 has become an enormous success out of the gate on PC. Now, we still need to see the PlayStation 5 and how, it does on that console. I have very good reason to believe that game's going to do huge numbers on PlayStation 5 as well, but on PC, we're talking about a truly staggering performance for Baldur's Gate 3. It hit 875,000 plus concurrent players. That made it the 9th highest peak for any game in the history of Steam. It came within just a few thousand of Hogwarts Legacy. It almost passed Hogwarts Legacy to become the number 8 highest game ever in history on Steam. The Metacritic and review scores are just absolutely through the roof, absolutely crazy. This is a major breakout moment for Larian, so I'm sure there's going to be a whole bunch of, questions around Baldur's Gate 3 if we think it's going to be successful on PlayStation as well. I know there's some discussion points out there if Baldur's Gate 3 is going to affect Starfield and its reception. We can talk about all of that if you guys want to. A few other quick topics we can hit on. Speaking of Starfield, this game has gone gold. We just found out there was a whole bunch of worry going on in the last couple weeks that Starfield might get delayed again. I told you guys on the last stream that I did, not last week, but the week before, that I had reason to believe it wasn't going to be delayed. Of course, it did not catch a delay. It has now gone gold. And normally, I would say, finding out the review embargo for a game is interesting, but it's not like a crazy mark your calendars day. But I think that for a lot of people, Starfield's reviews are going to be one of those moments because of how important many of us feel this game is to Xbox and to Microsoft and to Bethesda and everybody. So we found out that the review embargo lifts on August 31st at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So that's going to be pretty big. That's going to be a pretty big day. So we guys, we can talk about what kind of reviews we're expecting. Is the review score for this game that important? And whatever you guys want to. Another headline that I'll just touch on really quick off of the top. I don't know how much discussion there will be about this, but it's a game that you guys know I'm very excited for. And that's that Remedy has delayed Alan Wake 2. Now, it's a very small delay, actually. It's just from October 17th to the 27th. So it's just like a 10-day delay. And this isn't for quality of the game or anything like that. Remedy just flat out said that they wanted to move things around because of the release dates going on in October. As we all know, October is just absolutely out of control, packed, ridiculous. And I've seen some people wondering, is this actually a bad move because now it comes out after Spider-Man and Mario Wonder? Would it have been better to come out before Spidey and Mario? I actually think that delaying this was the right call because while it's still very close to Spidey and Wonder, it still has a little bit more breathing room than it did before. Originally, Alan Wake 2 was going to launch 3 days before those two games. That was so close that it could have potentially been very problematic. So now it at least has a little bit longer of a window between them. Not much, right? It's only 7 days instead of 3. But I still think at this point, any day that you can get gapped between you and those games is a good thing. So not a major delay. Hopefully it pays off for Remedy, but we can talk about that if you guys want to as well. And that's really the big headlines off of the top. And so we'll start getting into your guys' comments and questions here quickly. For anyone, if this is your first time ever as part of my live chat, the way it works, it's a stream, it's a show, 100% driven by you, your comments, your questions. We talk about the latest news in the video game industry. There's going to be a few ways to do that. First of all, of course, there's the free method. You just type a question, whatever you want, it pops into chat, and I get to as many free questions as I possibly can. If you want to guarantee guarantee that I get to your question. There's going to be two different ways to do that. First of all, there is the super chat option. You just type a donation of whatever you want. It alerts me and I get to super chats immediately. The other way to guarantee that I get to a question for you is going to be by becoming a channel member. The thing that I promise channel members is that they get at least one question or comment highlighted every single stream, usually more than one, because I try to really, focus on the channel members, and of course still hit the free questions, but that's why the channel members pay $4.99 a month. So those are your options. Do whatever you guys want, and don't feel obligated to donate or become a member or anything like that, because I do hit tons of free questions every chat as well, just a way to help support me and the channel. All right, let's get rocking and rolling into your guys' stuff. All right, Benji kicking us off here with a 5 super chat. Thank you so much, Benji. Great to see you, man. Hi, Benji. Why games such as Lords of the Fallen, Alan Wake 2, Alone in the Dark, Star Ocean are not delayed early 2024 with the busy end of 2023? Benji, my hunch is a couple things. First of all, I think Remedy really likes the idea of an October release for Alan Wake because it is a straight-up horror game, and I think they want to be in October because, people are going to be looking for some horror stuff to play. I mean, now this game's coming out like right before Halloween, right? It's the 27th. Halloween's the 31st. So this is prime Halloween season. I think that's actually part of it. I think, hey, any game that could launch a horror game in October that's going to look attractive to you because so many people are looking for horror experiences that month, whether it's video games, movies, TV shows, all of that sort of stuff. So I think that's part of it for Alan Wake 2. I also think that the game is probably just ready. Like, they don't need to. Some of these games, Lords of the Fallen, Alan Wake, Alone in the Dark, these may be games that are just like they're done. And, they don't have a ton else. If you look at these devs, like, Remedy doesn't have anything else coming for quite a while, right? I mean, we know that they're working on multiple projects. We know that they're working on a sequel for Control, but that's still probably quite a far way away. And they want to start getting some money in. They haven't had a release for a little while, not since Control. So I'm the game's probably just done, and they don't want to sit on it for 3 or 4 or 5 months. They want to at least get it out the door and start selling some copies. Probably the same thing for the Lords of the Fallen devs. So I think those are factors. And a lot of these, they probably assume that they're going to sell discounted during the holiday season, November and December. So maybe they think, hey, maybe we're going to take a bit of a hit at launch because of how packed October is, but at least we have November and December and, discounts and stuff we can run during that. It is tough. And they may also know, a lot of these devs and publishers know about what's already coming in the early parts of next year. So even though we don't have a ton announced for January, February, March, April next year right now, the publishers themselves may know a lot of big games targeting that window too, and they might think there's still not going to be much room regardless. We're getting into just very packed release slates for various reasons. Part of it's because COVID delayed so many games for so long. Now they're all releasing. So I think there's a lot of factors. Is it going to work out for everyone? No. The reality is that this October, specifically October, it's just too packed. Anytime you have that many games, like, someone's going to take a hit. There's just no way around it. Someone's going to get lost in all of the commotion. I have a feeling Alan Wake 2, to be honest with you, is going to do well. And whenever I say well, I don't mean like a massive seller, but I think it's going to do well no matter what, because the core Alan Wake fan base have been waiting for this game so long. Like, they're going to buy it no matter what. Like, for me, I've been waiting for Alan Wake 2 for so long. It has priority over literally every other release, including Spider-Man 2. Hey, love Spidey. I have only been waiting since 2018 for Spider-Man 2. I've been waiting for Alan Wake 2 for a decade. Like, that game has #1 priority to me. And that's going to be true for most hardcore Alan Wake fans. Now, you obviously want Alan Wake 2 to sell to much more than just the hardcore Alan Wake fan base. But I think they have some people just built in ready for this game no matter what, that they're going to sell some copies no matter what, because we've been waiting for this so long. I think Alone in the Dark is, I'm just going to be honest, get lost in the commotion. Hopefully it's a quality game, but I just don't see it being able to survive in that window. Lords of the Fallen, I don't know. The previews are pretty positive, and we know people like Souls-like games. So I don't know. I don't know. October is just brutal, man. It's absolutely freaking brutal. November this year is actually not that impressive. Like, I was looking at the release slate earlier. I almost wonder if some of these games should delay till November. A lot of years we think about November being this just out of control release window, and it's really not the case this year compared to October. Like, it's just not close. Like, let's look at November really quick. Don't get me wrong, there's some heavy hitters. You know, there's a new Call of Duty. There's a new Call of Duty every year, but it's not really that crazy. So I wonder if some of these should have got pushed in November specifically. So let's see, November. So in November, in terms of big releases, right, we're talking about games that are going to actually have impact. We're looking at Call of Duty, and the reality is that's it. And I know there's going to be some people that are going to be like, Benji, what? Super Mario RPG, you'll do well. Like, these other games, people are going to be like, Benji, look, there's Persona 5 Tactica there, and there's, you know, Like a Dragon, the Man Who Erased His Name. And I'm not saying that there's not going to be games in November that can do well, but in terms of, like, we're talking, like, serious impact on the market, it's only Call of Duty. That is it. There is one game as of now in November. Now let's look at October in terms of games that'll actually have market impact, right? Assassin's Creed Mirage, that will have market impact. Forza Motorsport, the reality is that game will do very, very well on Game Pass, and you're not just competing right now that we have subscriptions with sales, you're also competing for people's time, and you're going to have millions of subscribers on Game Pass. They're going to be able to engage with Forza, and that's going to take up their time, so that will have impact. We've got Spider-Man 2, that's going to have impact. We got Super Mario Brothers Wonder, that's going to have impact. I mean, it's just way more stacked of a month. So to be honest, I wonder if Alan Wake should have moved to November instead of the end of October, because to me, November's pretty wide open outside of Call of Duty. There's going to be a few other games that do well, but there's not going to be a ton of games that are just like instant 10 plus million selling games like we're, you know, going to see in October. So it's going to be brutal. Some people are going to get lost in the shuffle. That's just the reality. All right, let's hit some channel members. Joseki here. Hopefully my audio and everything's good. It looks like it is on OBS. Joseki, what is up? Hi, Benji. No real question, but I was curious, what games do you most look forward to this year, excluding Starfield, Spider-Man, Alan Wake? Yeah, those are my top three, absolutely. I do not AAA story-driven games, so nothing but Mario, and waiting to pick up mystery games on sales like Raincode and the sequel to the AI, the Somnium Files. So some games I'm looking forward to besides those three, because you're right, those are my top three. I think most people know that. Starfield, Spider-Man 2, and Alan Wake are my three most anticipated games for the rest of the year. A few other ones that I'm looking forward to. Mario Wonder. I'm actually really excited for Mario Wonder. I thought that the art style and everything for that game looked so great for a 2D Mario. You know, a lot of people kind of beat up on the new Super Mario Brothers series because the art style was just really plain. They weren't like terrible looking games, but if the new Super Mario Brothers games it didn't have a ton of personality. And Mario Wonder, I think, just has a great look to it. We always know that Mario platforming is going to be solid. So Mario Wonder is going to be up there for one I'm super excited for. I'm actually personally really excited for Avatar. I think Avatar looks fantastic. You know, I was one of those people that thought the first Avatar movie was just okay. Like, I didn't love it and I didn't hate it. I was like, okay, the graphics were cool. It was just an okay movie. But I absolutely loved The Way of Water. Like, I loved that movie. I liked that movie. It shocked me how much I loved that movie, considering how, you know, just kind of meh I was on the first Avatar. And what Ubisoft have shown, I think, looks great. So Avatar Frontiers of Pandora I'm excited for. Mario Wonder I'm excited for. And there's a few others. I've never played Super Mario RPG, so I'm pretty interested in that. But there's no doubt for me the big three, Starfield, Spider-Man 2, and Alan Wake. Those are absolutely my focuses. And Baldur's Gate 3, actually. I keep forgetting. Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 on PS5. I'm going to pick that up on PS5. I haven't played it on PC, so my PC is actually barely working. I didn't know if I was going to get this stream in because my PC decided today that it's just, I have an old computer. I built this thing years ago, and it was giving me all kinds of problems. Oh, and hopefully my internet holds up. I'm on Wi-Fi. Guys, I'm a mess right now, dude. Usually I plug in a LAN whenever I go to stream so that my connection stays stable, but I just realized I'm on my Wi-Fi, so hopefully it doesn't drop, guys. I'm a mess. Oh, we got a new channel member. Ross Wilson has become a channel member. Thank you so much, Ross Wilson. I very, very much appreciate that. Make sure you drop some stuff into chat because you're a channel member now, so you will absolutely get highlighted on the stream, Ross. Any questions, comments, anything you want? Benji here with a, I think that's your second super chat. Thank you so much, Benji. With 10, thank you. That's very generous. Benji, from the big games of late 2023, Starfield, Assassin's Creed Mirage, NBA 2K24, Spider-Man 2, Mario Wonder, Modern Warfare 3, EA Sports FC, and Avatar, which ones will overachieve or underachieve in sales? Fun question. Okay. Fun question. So let's go one at a time. Starfield. Starfield, to me, there's no doubt, is going to be gargantuan. The big question for Starfield is going to be, what is its sales numbers look like and what does its player numbers look like? Because I keep saying that there's no doubt that Game Pass is going to cannibalize some sales on Starfield. I actually ran a poll on Twitter about this, and my poll on Twitter, let's see, or X. I always forget they call it X now, but, you know, whatever. Let me see. Where is it at? So this thing has 15,000, almost 16,000 votes right now. And I asked people how they're planning on playing Starfield. And 20% of them say that they're buying it on console. 28% of it say that they're buying it on Steam. And 53% of it say they're playing through Game Pass. And that's with 16,000 votes. So, I mean, that's a decent amount of votes. Obviously, there's going to be millions of players, so it's not like representative of everyone. But still, it's not a poll with like, 10 people voting. It's 16,000 people. So we're looking at, just on that poll alone, over 50% playing this through Game Pass specifically and not buying the game. But I do think it's still telling that Steam had higher than console in terms of like who's going to buy the game, not just play it through Game Pass. So I think the Steam numbers are going to be huge for Starfield. I still really question how much this is going to sell on console. I just keep thinking it's honestly not going to sell a ton on consoles. I think most console-specific players are going to be playing this through Game Pass, but Steam should do very, very well for sales on it. So for Starfield, I'll say I'm expecting PC sales to be massive, console sales to be pretty meh, to be honest with you, but Game Pass engagement massive. So total engagement super high. Assassin's Creed Mirage, to me, really depends on how this game reviews. Some games we talk about all the time. Some games reviews are important. Sometimes they're not. Assassin's Creed Mirage, to me, I think it does kind of matter how it reviews because, we've seen the previous Assassin's Creed games be massive. This, however, is more of a throwback to the older Assassin's Creeds. It's smaller than the Assassin's Creeds we've seen for the more RPG style, Odyssey, Origins, and Valhalla. And while those games have mixed reception in terms of like, if you read how people think about them online, in terms of rejuvenating the franchise, there's no debate. Valhalla, Origins, and Odyssey completely turned the franchise direction around. Now, this is more of a throwback to the older style, which is going to be refreshing in some ways, but for some of the casual players who like these giant 100-plus hour Assassin's Creed games, they might feel a little differently about it. It's going to have a smaller scope. And also, the other thing about Assassin's Creed Mirage... Oh, wait, one sec. Sorry, let me get rid of this. The other thing about Assassin's Creed Mirage that I'm wondering is just what the quality is going to be like. Because Valhalla, I'll be honest with you, as huge as that game was, as massively successful as that game was, I thought Valhalla had some good stuff in it, but I also thought that it was in many ways a step down from Odyssey. So hopefully Mirage has high quality. So Assassin's Creed Mirage I'm a bit mixed on. NBA is NBA. It'll be huge no matter what. Spider-Man 2 I think will have the biggest launch in the history of PlayStation, beating God of War Ragnarok, so massive. Mario Wonder is going to be absolutely massive, 20+ million seller. Modern Warfare 3... Modern Warfare 3 is like the first Call of Duty in a while that's pretty interesting on how it's going to be received. Actually, not a while. It's going to be... The situation almost reminds me a bit of Vanguard, in that Vanguard did very bad for a Call of Duty game. And I almost wonder if Modern Warfare 3 is also going to do very bad for a Call of Duty game. Now, I don't know that for sure, but a lot of the player base for Call of Duty is really salty about Modern Warfare 2 from my outsider perspective. I'm not a huge Call of Duty fan, but I just see everyone complaining about it, about Modern Warfare 2. This game has a perception within the community of Call of Duty. I know because I follow some, Call of Duty accounts. It has a perception of just being an expansion that they're going to charge full price on. We'll see. It sounds like this is going to be a lot beefier than an expansion, but it has that perception. There's no doubt Modern Warfare 3 is going to be massive. It's going to sell a ridiculous amount of copies. It might even be #1 selling game of the year. I just wonder if we're going to see Modern Warfare 3 perform as well as Modern Warfare 2 did at launch, or if we're going to see a pretty big dip. I'm very curious on that. EA Sports FC will be interesting because this is the first year of the rebrand. I suspect it is going to take a dip from FIFA, but I think that they will earn that back as people realize that it's the same game just with a new name. So maybe you see EA Sports FC take a slight hit this year as people get used to the branding, but I think it'll recover fine. Avatar is another one that to me depends on reviews. I think Avatar looks really, really good. But for a lot of people, they think that this game looks like Far Cry on Pandora, which it kind of does. And that might turn some people away. But I would say if Avatar reviews well, it doesn't need to hit 90s Metacritic. If this game hits in the 80s meta, I think it could do pretty well. And it's in December where there's like nothing else. Like it's just Avatar. They basically have the month to themselves. So Avatar is another one, depends on reviews to me. Could do well if it reviews well. But if it comes in at like a 70s meta, I actually think it'll do pretty bad. MD has become a channel member for 4 months. Thank you so much, MD. I appreciate that, man. Always with the positivity. Benji, what's it like knowing that you're the undisputed GOAT? MD, I am not feeling that right now, man. Guys, I am struggling, man. This has just been, wow. It's one of the worst years of my life, guys. It really has. And it's not actually, I don't want to go super into it. You guys get sick of hearing me complain about my mental state, but it's a weird one, man. There's like actually nothing bad going on in my life. Like my life is fine, but my mental health is just, it's gone, man. It's really bad. It's really bad. It's a weird one. Usually most of the time, if you feel bad, you might kind of know like there's things going on in your life. There's nothing going on in my life. Like my life's fine. But I can't get control, man. But I appreciate it. Very much, MD, with the kindness. Jason Plays with a 5 super chat. That's very, very kind of you, Jason Plays. Do you think Starfield hits over 750,000 players on Steam? What a great question. Beats Baldur's Gate. Game Pass may eat into those numbers, but I feel like it still hits 700K. You know what's interesting, Jason Plays, is that Starfield's actually been tracking ahead of Hogwarts Legacy. It's been tracking bigger than Hogwarts Legacy on Steam if you follow like the amount of followers the game has on Steam and everything like that. Like the numbers you can kind of look at tells you this will actually be bigger than Hogwarts Legacy on Steam, which means that 1 million's in play. 900,000 to 1 million would be in play in that scenario. Now, if that will actually happen or not, there's no doubt, in my opinion, Game Pass is going to eat into those numbers somewhat. But I think that's going to really be the effect on console, like I was saying earlier. I do think there's no doubt about it. PC Game Pass does have millions of subscribers. So there's no doubt that Game Pass on PC is going to somewhat eat into those Steam numbers. But we also know that PC players really love Steam. And so I think that has way less of a cannibalizing effect on PC than it does on console. Console, like I keep saying, it is absolutely going to sell some on console. I'm not telling you that no one on Xbox is going to buy Starfield. But I just think that cannibalization effect from Game Pass will be much stronger on Xbox than it will be on PC, specifically because how much people love Steam. So right now, Jason Plays, the tracking actually looks like a game that's going to get close to that 1 million number, which would be out of control. If Starfield hits 1 million on Steam while still also being available on Game Pass, we're talking some absolutely bonkers numbers for total player counts. Now, Jason, I think for any of this scenario to actually play out is it has to review strong. It really has to review strong. Specifically because let's say this game shockingly comes out with mediocre reviews. I'm not expecting that, but let's say that this game comes out with a 78 Metacritic. You might see a lot of PC players that are subbed to Game Pass still want to play this game, but now seeing that the reviews aren't as strong as maybe they were expecting, be like, all right, I'll just play it through Game Pass instead of buying it now. So I think it does, in order for it to hit those 700,000, 800,000, 900,000, even potentially a million player counts on Steam, it has to get strong reviews. I'm not of the opinion some are that like Starfield has to hit 95 Metacritic or it's a flop. We've seen tons of great games hit high 80s, tons of them. Both Horizon games didn't hit 90 and they're fantastic. Both Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales didn't hit 90 Metacritic and they're also fantastic. So to me, it doesn't need to hit 95, but this does need to hit 85 or better. If this comes in at low 80s or high 70s, I think it will be seen as a disappointment. This needs to be at least an 85 meta. I think Microsoft internally and Bethesda are probably looking at that sort of thing as well. Obviously, 90 plus is better, but 90 plus Metacritic is so hard to hit. So, in order to have these massive Steam numbers, it also does need to review well. But it's going to be huge no matter what. No matter what the reviews are, for me, there's no doubt about it. 500,000 to 700,000 is locked. Somewhere in that range. Locked no matter what. And if it reviews really well, I will not be shocked at all to see 8, 9, or a million. Highlander001 with a 5 super chat. I love Baldur's Gate 3, both on my gaming PC, and it looks great on ROG Ally. With Square Enix bad first quarter, do you see any big changes going on? Well, thank you so much, Highlander, for that super chat, and it's great to see you. Yeah, I'm excited to play Baldur's Gate 3 on PlayStation 5. It's going to have to come after Starfield, because I'll just flat out have Starfield first, since I'm doing like the deluxe, upgrade where you can pre-order that and get like the game a little bit sooner. I think that actually hits before Baldur's Gate 3's official release. I can't remember the exact date. Isn't Baldur's Gate 3 like the same day as regular Starfield, September 5th? So I'll be playing Starfield already by the time Baldur's Gate 3 hits on console. So Starfield will be first, but I'm very excited to play Baldur's Gate 3 as well. Now, Square Enix, I've been telling you guys, I don't think the exclusivity deal is smart for PlayStation unless they're getting a massive bag. We've been talking about this for quite a few chats lately. Going fully exclusive on Final Fantasy to me is a big mistake, unless, like I keep saying, like Sony is throwing them crazy amounts of cash, because they're limiting this franchise's potential so much. And it's not just because Xbox. Whenever I say they're limiting the sales potential so much, like, why is this game not day one on PC? They're just throwing sales away, just throwing large amounts of sales away. And while I don't think that Final Fantasy 16, for example, would sell huge amounts on Xbox, there's the potential down the road that, because trust me, Phil Spencer will give them a Game Pass bag. I don't know about a day one launch, right? Square Enix might not want to do that, but, 6 months down the line, they would get an additional Game Pass bag plus the huge PC sales at launch for the game, plus, of course, still on PlayStation. So my opinion on it, unless Sony's paying like literally the entire development costs of all these Final Fantasy games, I think Square Enix is kind of messing up, making this so locked down exclusive, even to the point where PC launches aren't hitting day and date. Even PC launches are hitting later. It's just not smart business. Unless, again, I just keep saying it, we don't know how much Sony's paying them. If Sony's paying them mountains and mountains of money, well, then my tone's a little bit different. But it's just not smart. I think any third party, I talked about this on a chat a couple weeks ago. I don't think any third party should be making any console exclusive games unless you're getting funded by the platform holder. Outside of that, and when I say funded, I don't mean a marketing deal. They're funding your game, like we saw with Bayonetta on Switch, where the only reason Bayonetta 2 existed was because Nintendo funded that game for Platinum. Like, those sort of scenarios, okay, then go console exclusive. But if you're just getting, hey, we're going to throw you $10 million in a marketing deal or something like that, it's just not smart business nowadays. Games are way too expensive to make, and locking them down to one platform is just foolish. There's all sorts of other additional ways to get revenue, whether that's PC sales, whether that's Game Pass deals, whether that's PlayStation Plus subscription deals, sales up front on multiple platforms. It's just dumb. Now, again, I'm not saying specifically what Square Enix is doing is dumb because I don't know how much Sony's paying them. Maybe they're fully funding these Final Fantasy games. But if they aren't, it's really dumb. George Corona the Third with a 10 super chat. Thank you so much, George Corona. Seems like the Series S parity issue is coming to a head due to Baldur's Gate 3, Halo, and Forza Motorsport split screen. What does Microsoft do, especially since Series S likely accounts for a lot of their overall number? I think they have to drop the parity deal, or the parity thing. I think it's really, really foolish to keep doing this. Now, I don't think that they should allow games to completely skip the platform, because you're seeing some discussion about that. Like, maybe Microsoft should allow, some games to just completely skip the S and only ship on the X. I don't think you can do that because they've promised these Series S owners like that this is a next generation console and that they're going to get the same games that are on the X. So I don't think they can go that far. I don't agree with those opinions where they're like, just let devs skip the S. No, I don't think you can do that. That would just look very, very bad. And like, you're saying, George Corona, S makes up a big part of Xbox sales. So if you're allowing games to just completely skip the S, it looks real bad. But I think this idea that like the S has to have the exact same feature set as the X, I don't agree with that, and I don't think there's any real reason why you would have to push for that. You could just simply say, hey, if you get this game on the X, you get split screen. And if you get this game on the S, you don't. And it's that simple. I don't think it's complicated messaging. I think Microsoft's making it more complicated than it actually needs to be. Like, it's really that simple. You could literally just put on the box, the X version has split screen, and the S version doesn't. And that's it. That's all you got to do. It's not that complicated. And maybe some Series S owners would be bummed that they're missing that feature. But you tell me, would a Series S owner be more bummed that maybe they're missing split screen than potentially completely missing the game? To me, it's a bigger deal if you're completely missing the game. So I think it's just foolish. I don't understand why they're so hard on this at all. Because to me, it's not complicated. It's not. Now, again, this is a different conversation if we're talking about games completely skipping S. If we're like, hey, this game came out and you can only get it on your X and not your S. No, that would be very difficult to message and would cause confusion and would cause anger. But something like, hey, the more powerful console can do split screen and the other one can't, to me, it's not complicated. You just slap it on the box and go. Like, that's it. It's that simple. So, yeah, they should drop that. I think it's silly to put your foot down so hard on that. And I know what the argument's going to be. The argument's going to be, well, Benji, if you started at split screen, then it's a slippery slope. As long as the game itself is shipping on both platforms, I don't think it matters what else doesn't get shipped in it. As long as the core game is essentially the same, right? We're just talking split screen here. Yes, that's going to be a big deal to some people, but it's not the game, right? Baldur's Gate 3 is about a lot more than just having split screen or not. As long as the core games are the same across both, who cares? I think it's silly to be so adamant about this. But, they're in charge of Xbox and I'm not. So who am I to talk? Jeremy G with a 5 super chat. Thank you so much, Jeremy. They make up some of the Game Pass cannibalization by doing that early access upgrade. Exactly. I think it's so smart. I know nobody who's waiting till September 6th, myself included. And I am also doing the early access thing. I tweeted about this a long time ago. And I actually talked about it on a video. They should do this with every single first-party game that they release. Every single one. Now, well, every big one, right? If it's a small project like a Pentiment-sized game, you don't need to do the deluxe upgrade or whatever. But every single flagship Xbox game should have the option of, even if you don't do the early access, because some people feel really, there's a lot of strong opinions about if early access is consumer friendly or not. But at the very least, these paid upgrades where you don't have to spend the full cost of the game, like we're seeing with Starfield, it's $35 to get the deluxe upgrade if you're a Game Pass subscriber. That's less than the cost of the game itself, and it gets you all of the DLC two DLC packs that are going to be in there, plus the early access. Like, that's a great deal to me. I'm going to buy the DLC for Starfield anyways. why not buy this now and get early access to it? They should be doing this with all of their big games. It's a way to get additional revenue from Game Pass subscribers. Completely agree, Jeremy. Very, very smart move. They should be doing this with all of them. All of them. Again, except for like if it's a smaller project or it's a game like you plan on having no DLC for. Nowadays, most games get some form of a downloadable content. But if, for example, they plan on having no future updates for Hellblade 2 outside of the core game, okay, maybe that you don't do the deluxe edition upgrade. But, 95% of their first-party games should offer this. Hamishly Ford has been a member for 4 months. Thank you so much, Hamish. Very kind of you. Thank you for continuing to support me in the channel. Baldur's Gate 3 is insane. Will critics be more harsh on Starfield now that we got the best RPG game ever made a month before Starfield LMAO? So this is something that has a ton of discussion going on. Is Starfield going to be impacted by Baldur's Gate 3? There is a part of me that thinks not really, and then there is a part of me that thinks potentially. So let me kind of give some context around that. So the idea that like Baldur's Gate 3 is out and now suddenly, it was so good, like all reviewers are just going to hate on Starfield. I think that's pretty far-fetched. And I think part of the thing that's getting lost in this discussion about how much Baldur's Gate 3 specifically is going to impact Starfield is these games are essentially nothing alike. The only similarity is the letters RPG. Besides that, they almost have nothing in common, right? One of them is a Dungeons and Dragons fantasy game. One of them is a sci-fi game. One of them is really about, like just the storytelling and just the role-playing elements. Starfield, yes, there are role-playing elements. Yes, there is a story, but it's so much more about the exploration and going to different planets and what a Bethesda game is, where it's just do whatever the freaking heck you want, basically, openness. Now, so in a lot of ways, these games honestly are not much alike at all, other than that they both can be called RPGs, but there's massive differences between how these games actually play. Now, the one area where I think it could actually hurt Starfield in some reviewers' opinions is specifically the areas they overlap. So, like, let's say companions, right? Both games offer companions and dialogue options. And so, like, the areas where there is direct head-to-head overlap, these are some areas where Baldur's Gate 3 is so strong and it's so fresh that I could see it impacting reviewers in some ways, right? On specific things they overlap with. But there are also so many things Starfield does that Baldur's Gate just flat out doesn't, because it's just completely different in many, many ways. I don't think it will be this massive thing, right? You're seeing a lot of people be like, oh, wow, now all of a sudden, like, maybe, Starfield would have got a 95 Metacritic, but because of Baldur's Gate 3, now it's going to be like 82. I think that's like crazy, right? You might see a little bit of hit, a little bit on, like I said, like the companions and like the things that are very specific overlap between the two. But I think so much of it is non-comparable because they're so radically different in what they are and what they're trying to accomplish that I think mostly Starfield will just live and die by its own merits. Is the exploration fun? Is going to these other planets fun? Is building the bases fun? Is building your spaceship fun? Like, these are all things that Baldur's Gate does not do. So these are all things that, like, that is what's important to that game. Of course, companions are important. Of course, storyline and the RPG elements are definitely important. But so much of Starfield's about more than just that those are the things that are really going to impact its score more than just, hey, does Baldur's Gate 3 have better companion dialogue than Starfield? Like, that's maybe a little bit, but not as important as all these other things I'm talking about. Baby Cake in here with a very big and generous super chat. Holy cow. Thank you so much, Baby Cake, and with a 20 saying, I'm finally here. Keep up the great work, Benji-senpai. Well, baby, that is so nice, Baby Cake, and I appreciate that. That's very, very generous of you. It's great to see you here in the chat. I appreciate the support so much. I appreciate the support from everybody. It's, man, it's rough. Got to get my mind right somehow. I got to get it on track. But thank you. Your guys' kindness, it helps, man. It helps. But things are just, man, they're rough. Okay, thank you so much for those super chats and channel members and everything. Let me hit some channel member questions. So we've been like so much on the super chats and the channel renewers. Let's see any channel members that have just been dropping stuff in the chat. What's up, JCat? Great to see you. What's up, Red Dead Series? Great to see ya. Carlos, here we go. Carlos, channel member here. Carlos Moera. Hey, Benji, Nate the Hate and MVG recently had a very interesting conversation on the possibility or not of Nintendo Switch 2 being fully backwards compatible. What's your take on this? What do you think is most probable? You know, both those guys would probably have way better insight than me. Nate the Hate actually goes out and is like trying to find this information, whereas I don't. And MVG is like, you know, he like just knows a lot about hardware and stuff. Hardware's not specifically my specialty, but I know MVG does know a lot about this stuff. I think business-wise, it needs to be backwards compatible. I think if they come out and Switch 2 isn't, there is going to be quite a bit of uproar about it because of how successful Switch 1 was. You know, it was a lot easier to go from the Wii U to the Switch and say, hey, they're not backwards compatible, because the Wii U was a complete bomb and people didn't build up a huge library for it of games, right? Like, first of all, there was very few Wii U owners in general, and most of those Wii U owners didn't own, you know, 15, 20 games for their Wii U. I mean, of course, there would be some, but it wasn't like this massively successful platform that had these massive first-party sales and tons and tons and tons of games built up. I think if they launch this thing without backwards compatibility, like, Switch 2 to me is going to be successful no matter what, but do I think there would be an actual legitimate impact on Nintendo, especially at launch? I would say, like, maybe not like the launch week, but like in that first year, would there be quite a bit of blowback about this because people have bought so many Switch games for there to be not any backwards compatibility? I think it'd be a pretty bad move, Carlos. Pretty freaking bad move. People are getting ingrained now that they have these libraries, especially now that Nintendo is growing in digital sales. That's another huge factor here. It'd be a pretty bad move, man. It'd be a pretty bad move. But Nintendo is such a wild card that you just never know. Like, to me, there will never be another Xbox or PlayStation again that's not backwards compatible. Like, they'll always find a way. Even if hardware changes are so crazy, to me, Sony and Microsoft, I just have full faith that they're always going to find a way, even as generations go on, to keep backwards compatibility rolling. Nintendo is just a wild card. You can never guess what Nintendo's going to do. So I think they should. I think they need to. But do I have any confidence in this? I would say no. I would for anyone else. But for Nintendo, they're just so hard to read, man. Ross Wilson, channel member here. No question. I listen to the show every week, but this is my first time catching it live. Great to see you, man. So I thought I should finally show some support. Keep up the great work, Benji. That's so kind of you. Thank you so much. You know, these streams aren't big. They do right around 1,000 views weekly. You know, sometimes there will be a bit higher, sometimes a bit less. But, you know, my YouTube just does not grow anywhere like my Twitter account does. But, you know, maybe to a massive YouTuber, 1,000 views just seems like so small. But to me, it's like, hey, I mean, 1,000 people. Like, I live in a city, or I was, you know, raised in just like a small rural town. To me, 1,000 people watching a week, man, that's awesome. That's awesome. So thank you so much, Ross. I'm glad you got to be here live for a change. J2 Blue in the Sky, channel member saying hello. What is up, J2? Great to see you. And then Homishley Ford channel member, Benji, you are literally the only content creator I watch live on the internet. Literally only your streams because they are so damn fun and informative. You are doing great, brother. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Hamish. Thank you so much, man. That, like, you're almost going to get me emotional again. Wow, I went from, like, I'm not crying. I'm holding it together. I went from not crying on stream for however long my YouTube channel has existed for 4 years to crying and then almost crying within, like, a 3-week window. My God. I'm a mess. Thank you so much, guys. All right, let's get to some of the free questions. Logan Hardy Just saying, hi, Benji. Hope you're doing well. Really missed your live chats. I'm sorry I've been so inconsistent. You know, I took like that whole month off because of my mental health. And then last week it was just because I was sick. Didn't have anything to do with, I mean, my mental health's a complete disaster, but I didn't skip a stream for that reason. I was sick, man. I was so sick last week. Timmer72299. Hi, Benji. Hope you're doing well. No question today. Thank you so much, Timmer. Great to see you, buddy. Cameron Swear, we haven't ran any polls. Let's run a poll. Let's run a Starfield poll. I love doing the polls, and I just realized that we haven't ran one yet. Well, let's predict Starfield Metacritic. Now that we have a review date, what will Starfield's Metacritic be? We'll say 90 plus. We'll say 80 plus. We'll say 70 plus. And then the real wild card. Below 70. I can't see that, guys. But the reality is you have to include it as an option because we have seen rare shockers where games reviewed just way lower than you would have ever expected them to. It's not common. I cannot see below 70, but I'm going to include the option. So what will Starfield's Metacritic be? 90 plus, 80 plus. Now, whenever you guys know what I mean, actually, I should clarify. I'll say 90 plus because technically 95 is part of 80 plus, right? So let's make this more exact. 80 to 89, 70 to 79, and then below 70. There we go. Poll is in the chat. My prediction, man, I don't know, man. Part of me thinks this game hits 90s, but there's a part of me that thinks it hits high 80s. Because I just don't know if the space exploration stuff's going to hit with everyone. Like, that's what makes 90 plus so hard, is that, like, you have to hit with almost everyone. Like, even if you get a lot of 9s and 10s, if you even get a sprinklings of some 7s or low 8s, like that can bring you out of that 90 plus. Like it's got to be so universal. That's what makes 90 plus so hard. If I had to predict right now, I'm going to go super high 80s. I'm going to go 88, 89, right in there. If I had to predict, it will barely miss 90, but at the same time, I won't be shocked if it's like a 95. But if I just like, you know, Benji, you got to put a bet down, I would go super high 80s. But 90 wouldn't shock me. The only thing that would shock me is below 85. That would surprise me. I do think it at least hits 85. Cameron Swear, hey Benji, thoughts on Nintendo selling more Switches than PS5s last quarter? I'm kind of shocked. This is peak PS5 territory. Well, dude, they were really saved by Japan. That is really the truth of the matter. I know there's so much positivity on the Switch numbers, and there should be. The Switch numbers are fantastic. Absolutely incredible. The fact that this console is still this successful so late in its life cycle, like none of that should be underplayed. But the truth is it really was Japan that got them there. The console is declining in North America specifically. I think they're timing things perfectly. So I would say fantastic result for Switch. Like, seriously, whenever I'm saying it was really Japan that carried that, that's not me trying to undersell how well it's doing. It's doing amazing. But I'm saying I do think timing Switch 2 for next year is very smart because we're way past peak in North America. Like, it's still doing well in NA. It's not like it's, like, falling off a cliff, but it's just we are in that slope, man. And even Europe is slowing down. Japan is still crazy successful, but they do need new hardware next year. They do. So they're, again, all of this incredibly successful, amazing numbers. Japan particularly just incredible for Switch. But they're timing their next console well. Next year. You know, if it would have been this year, there was some debate about if this year would have been the right call. And even at one point, I was kind of thinking 2023 would be really, really the right call. I actually think they timed it out perfectly because the Switch is still legging so well. Next year's where to put that thing. So they're good. They're good. I think we had a channel member renewal. We did. Highlander here with has become a channel member for 4 months. Thank you so much, Highlander. Really appreciate that, buddy. Take time for your family and yourself. Thoughts on Sony not releasing numbers for Sony subscription numbers? First Xbox, now Sony. What that tells me, Highlander, is something you could actually see in the charts anyways, and something Matt Piscatella talks about. Subscriptions are leveling off, like big time. So we know this is true of Plus because you could see up until now, you could see there are PlayStation Plus subscribers every quarter, and they had really stagnated. They weren't particularly growing. Now, they were growing subscription revenue by adding those additional tiers, but in terms of total subscriber numbers, they had just really leveled off. We have a lot of evidence that the same thing has happened for Game Pass. Now, Game Pass is growing. They talk about it every quarter. Every quarter, they've still said Game Pass subscribers showed growth, but there's not a ton of evidence that Game Pass is currently explosively growing. I think that those per quarter gains are pretty mild. I think they're slightly gaining subs per quarter. So it's not one of those things that's like we're gaining 5 million subscribers per quarter. You know what I mean? So I think the reason no one's wanting to talk about their numbers is that everyone is leveling off. And this is something that we are massively seeing happen in the entertainment industry, specifically movies and TV. Subscriptions are just falling off a cliff, to be honest, in terms of the business side of things with movies and TV. So I think that, subscriptions and gaming are a little more viable than I don't think it will be as volatile in terms of like the pullback, because like the entertainment industry is massively pulling back from subscription, like across the board. Outside of Netflix, they're like, yeah, we kind of messed up with going down subscription routes. They're still worth having, but in terms of putting content day one on these subscriptions, that's getting pulled back across the board essentially. Like Disney's like, nah, we're not really doing that much anymore. HBO's even like, nah, we're not doing that much anymore. Like all of that stuff. They're going now to the theatrical experience, then the pay VOD, and then subscription after that. The difference is that with gaming, you can buy it day one the same. You know what I mean? Like with movies, the thing that they were messing up in a lot of ways is they were just sacrificing like their theatrical windows for a little bit there. And they were just releasing movies, some of them exclusively on streaming, right? They weren't even putting it in a theater. They were just putting it on their subscription services. And they were just throwing money away. At least with Game Pass, like my poll that I ran on Starfield, like, yeah, 50% or whatever of that poll is going to be playing it through Game Pass. But there was still almost 50% of people buying that game. So I don't necessarily think that like subscriptions are over for gaming and all of a sudden now Microsoft's not going to do day one moving forward necessarily or anything like that. But I do think we're starting to see the leveling off of just how high these subscriptions will go. I think Game Pass will absolutely get a boost from Activision when that comes online. I do think games like Starfield and stuff are going to boost subs. But I think this idea that was kind of percolating for a little bit, that everything was going to go to subscription, and now like the actual purchasing market was under threat, and that Game Pass and the higher PS Plus tiers would just remove sales of games like across the board, I wouldn't be that concerned about that anymore. I think we're kind of seeing the leveling off of where these subscription services are going to kind of hit. They're going to grow still, but I'm starting to become doubtful we're going to see them just like hit 100+ million crazy subscriber numbers. I'm getting pretty doubtful of that, to be honest. Jose here, channel member. Baldur's Gate 3 is the highest game on Metacritic based on 20 reviews at the time, 40 now. Zelda has 140 reviews and it sits 1 point below Baldur's Gate 3. Is it fair to base a game with only 40 reviews compared to 140? I mean, yes and no. Like 40 is not a small number. Like that is a lot of outlets. So I would say for like a fighting over something, because I'm seeing some people fight about it. They're like, Zelda is still number one. Who cares about Baldur's Gate? It has more reviews, or the vice versa. Seeing people be like, Zelda, has been dethroned. It's all about Baldur's Gate. These games are so close in reviews. Like, they're going to finish very, very close in reviews regardless. There's enough, put it this way, there's enough reviews in for Baldur's Gate 3 at this point, like that it's going to finish extremely high. Like, it's going to be 95+ guaranteed, essentially, no matter what. Like, whenever you have 10 reviews in, that could get volatile. Now that we're over 40, I mean, the consensus is kind of already there. So it's going to finish extremely high regardless. I would say gamers should just take both as a massive win. You got two incredible games here. You got Zelda that reviewed extremely high. You got Baldur's Gate that reviewed extremely high. Both amazing games. It's not a big deal if one finishes within 1 to 2 points meta higher. They're both just fantastic. Beef Hammer with a 5 super chat. Benji, people are cheering in the streets and hyping up the release for Blue Beetle. Should we expect 1 or maybe or maybe even 2 billion for its box office? Well, Beef Hammer. Okay, so 2 things. First of all, I apologize if I'm laughing and you're being serious, okay? I apologize. All right, because I can never tell. With text space, you can never tell. Beef Hammer, if you're being serious, I apologize, which you very well might be, okay? Because the reviews are great. So maybe that is making some people think that it's possible, because we've seen superhero movies go over 1 billion. Beef Hammer, here's what I'll tell you. Here's the bad news. All right, let me get the bad news out of the way first, and then I'll get the good news out of the way for you. So the bad news is that this movie's tracking horrifically bad in terms of box office. We're talking like nuclear bomb levels of bad tracking, okay? So that's the bad news. But now let me turn this around to the good news. The good news is that reviews are extremely high. It's one of the highest reviewed DC movies actually ever, I believe. Word of mouth seems through the roof. So I would say that the absolutely horrific tracking that we were looking at. Guys, when I say this movie was tracking bad, we're talking like nuclear bomb worse than The Flash level bad. And The Flash was, I mean, The Flash is going to lose like $200 or $300 million. So it was tracking bad. But I actually think that like this super positive word of mouth is actually going to turn that around a little bit. Now, Beef Hammer, 1 to 2 billion. You know, if you're being serious about that, which again, whenever I laugh, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just laughing because I know what this movie was tracking like. I would say no chance. No chance. I would love to be wrong. If this movie somehow comes in at 1 billion, amazing. I think there's no chance of that. But do I think there's a chance it actually could turn around enough to not be like seen as like the greatest disaster that we've seen in a long time? I think potentially. What was The Flash's end box office? It was under 4, right? Wasn't it 300 something? I believe. Where did this thing finish at? Good God, it didn't even hit 3. Good mother of God. The Flash is at 268 million. Mother of God. That's so bad, guys. I think it can outgross Flash. I'll say that. I'll think that Blue Beetle actually might be able to do more than Flash. Maybe. If now the reviews are high, the early word of mouth's high, but again, we don't know how that's going to exactly translate to when audiences see this movie. Like once they actually go out in force opening weekend, what they tell their friends. I will say that maybe it does. Maybe it gets to 300 plus. What did Black Adam get? That was 300. Black Adam was what? Like 393. It almost got to 4. I don't know if it's going to do Black Adam numbers. I mean, 400, pretty close to 400 million. That would be such a turnaround from its tracking. You never know. But I'll just predict it can get to 300 million. And we'll see. Anything over that, fantastic. Like, compared to what it was tracking like. Right now, I'll say 300. If it's as good as people are saying. Highlander001 with a 2 super chat. Thoughts on game output for 2024 for all 3? Well, Xbox is actually looking real good. They've got Hellblade 2 for next year. They've got... Is that Clockwork game confirmed for next year? I don't think it is, right? Or whatever the hell that game's called. I always forget its name, dude. I literally always forget Obsidian's new game. Its name. Always. I can never remember the name of this game. I know they have Avowed next year, but... Oh, no, that's In Exile. Why am I saying Obsidian? I'm sorry. I knew it was In Exile. I was just saying Obsidian. What the heck is the name of that freaking game? Someone drop it in chat. I can never remember the damn game's name. I can never remember this game's name. Not even once. Yeah, it is Clockwork. Clockwork Revolution. Yeah, that does not have a release date. Okay, yeah, they've got Towerborn, they've got Hellblade, Flight Sim. Did the South of Midnight game get a 2024? I don't think it did. I don't think they gave South of Midnight a 2024 release, right? Yeah, Clockwork, yeah. Okay, I would say Xbox is looking pretty decent. Hellblade, Avowed, Towerborn, and Flight Sim are all announced for next year. So pretty decent. Potentially great, depending on how some of those turn out, right? It really depends on how some of those turn out. But I would say that they at least look good. Like, that's a solid lineup. And if they squeeze one or two more or whatever in there that are also good, could be a great lineup. PlayStation to me looks extremely weak next year, I'm just being honest. But they have almost nothing announced. Like, they just have a couple service games. And they've got Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. But that's not a first-party game. I know it's an exclusive, but it's not a first-party game. Sony's PlayStation 5's 2024 as of now looks just rough as hell, but they haven't announced their lineup. So to me, it's like Sony's hard to judge. I would say if we're going off of just what's announced right now, it looks bad. Like, it just looks bad. It looks like a terrible year. But in terms of pure first-party output, that being said, I feel like Sony just hasn't really announced what's coming next year. I think there's going to be more than what's announced. So they're just like, whatever, we'll see. Xbox, good. Nintendo has almost nothing announced really for next year, but they're going to have their launch lineup for their next console, so probably giga banger. Like, Nintendo's probably going to have an insane year next year. If Switch 2 is really launching next year, which everything indicates it is, that means they're going to have some big launch games for their next console, plus a few more to finish out the Switch 1. So Nintendo will have a giga banger massive year. So that's how I would say. Nintendo is going to be fantastic. They have a new console. Xbox looks very, very good as long as the games themselves are good, and PlayStation looks very bad, but we'll have to see what they're actually releasing. IcePick1878 channel member here. What do you think is the more important exclusive, Roblox for Xbox or Genshin/Honkai for Sony? Man, this is such a good question, IcePick. I've never been asked that. I have no idea. That is the absolute truth. I have no freaking clue how to answer that question. Because Roblox is massively important for Xbox. Like, people don't realize that. Let me pull up Xbox most played games right now. Right now on the Xbox most played games, think about how long Roblox has been out. It is at number 4. The only games that are more played right now on Xbox in North America are Fortnite, Call of Duty, and Rainbow Six Siege. That's it. Top 4. And that game's been out forever. So clearly Roblox is very important for Xbox. That said, Genshin's also been massively important for PlayStation. That game is also often in, like, they do like the top 10 games in your country list. Like, Genshin's on there very often. So it is an amazing question, but one that I have quite literally zero idea how to answer. They're both super important. I have no idea which one would be more. No clue, man. David Taylor, I'm seeing Blue Beetle tonight, and there were 9 total seats sold, counting me and my brother. This is a premium showing at a major theater. Yeah, it's tracking horrible. So, had these reviews not been, like, through the roof, like, what's its Rotten Tomato score at now? It's high, man. It's really high. For a DC movie, it's really high. Because DC tends to not review as well as Marvel. That doesn't mean that there's not exceptions. But in general... Oh, it has dropped a bit, actually. It has dropped. I mean, it's still good. It's at 81%, but last I saw it, it was at 88%. So it's actually dropped by quite a bit. But I mean, 81 is still very, very good. Let's see the cinema score. Cinema score is so important for movies. You want the number one indicator about a movie's legs. It's not what someone on YouTube tells you. It's not what, some random article on some website tells you. If you guys are interested in box office, because I am, just like I'm interested in video game sales, the number one indicator, doesn't mean it's always right, but we're talking the number one indication of any movie's legs, cinema score. So we need to see what cinema score audiences give it. So let's see. But yeah, the tracking was horrible. I actually agree with this J2 Blue in the Sky. I think it's finally kicking in. J2 Blue in the Sky says, I just think that people are just burnt out on superhero movies. People aren't rushing out to see it. I actually agree. I was one of those people that was in denial for a long time about superhero fatigue. I actually do think it's real now. And now people are going to counter that by saying, look at how well Guardians of the Galaxy did, 3. Look at how well Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse did, and that is absolutely true. So whenever I say that I actually do believe now fully that superhero fatigue is kicking in, I don't think that means that people won't see superhero movies anymore if they're super, super good. I do think there are so many superhero movies that they have to be really high quality for people to want to see them. I think audiences, like for a while, Marvel, even though they had great quality levels for a long time as well, but they were so consistently good, and we weren't getting all of the Disney Plus shows on top of it, that like they just had that built-in audience that was always going to see Marvel. Now, I don't think that's true anymore, and I don't think it's true for DC or anyone. I think the movies themselves have to be incredibly high quality. Guardians 3 was a great movie, so that's why people still went out and saw it. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was an amazing movie. That's why people still went out and saw it. All of these like mediocre or bad superhero movies, like there's so many superhero movies in general for so long now, people are just going to skip them. So yes, I agree. I do think there is some level of superhero fatigue. Doesn't mean that none of them can be successful, but I think it's only going to be the super high quality ones. All of the mediocre or lower ones, they're just not going to hit anymore. Holy cow. I did not expect so many people in chat dropping so many questions today. I'm still streaming for a while, though, so don't worry. I'm still going to hit a lot of questions and comments. Benji here says, Benji, Sony seems bullish on hitting that 25 million mark for the PS5. Not sure how, as they're behind in Q1. Could they go for a lower than expected PS5 Slim price below 400? Well, you're seeing a ton of deals on PS5s. I am interested to see how they price this new PlayStation console that is leaking. I was of the opinion there would be no price drop, like permanent price drop associated with it, but maybe they're planning on it. Like, I personally never saw that coming, but maybe there's going to be a permanent price cut alongside this new model. Maybe they've brought down the costs enough that they can permanently cut. Again, not something at all that I went in expecting, but maybe Sony brought down the manufacturing costs so much that they can permanently discount. So maybe that's a factor, Benji. I would say that in order to keep that high forecast, I mean, Spider-Man's going to push some crazy volume, but I don't know if Spider-Man alone is enough to get them there, and I don't know. We'll see, Benji. I almost think they need a permanent price cut to really hit that number, like alongside that new model. But we'll see. Spider-Man's going to drive a lot, but will it be enough? I don't know, man. Tough. That's tough. That is tough. All right, let's hit some free questions. Yoda is asking about backwards compatibility, and I went into that. Deadly 8, do you think WB Games will shift focus from live service titles to single player? They should, especially their DC games. They should. Do you think WB Montreal, Rocksteady in danger of shutdowns or layoffs if games don't do well? I believe WB Montreal just got extensive layoffs. I thought I saw that. I think, unfortunately, who made Gotham Knights, I believe I saw that they just had extensive layoffs at that studio, which isn't a shocker considering how Gotham Knights performed. Rocksteady, I would say, is in massive danger because they have spent an extremely long amount of time to get out a game that I have zero confidence is going to be a commercial success. So that's always going to be dangerous. We've talked about this a lot, guys, every week on this chat. I believe that the industry's obsession with trying to get the next Apex Legends or Grand Theft Auto Online or Destiny is it's a siren song. And the siren song is dangerous, right? The siren song sounds beautiful, but that siren song can pull you beneath the waves. And studios and publishers got to be careful, man. There's so much competition in the games as a service space that, like, most of these aren't going to hit. That's just how it works. So, doesn't mean that you shouldn't be trying. I say that every time. Every publisher should be trying to get in some capacity the next Apex, the next Destiny, the next yada, yada, yada. But you got to be real careful how much you invest in that, man. The Deadly 8. Do you think WB Games will shift... Oh, wait, I just answered that. Adam Kareem. Hi, Benji. Don't you think PlayStation need to start releasing more first-party titles more frequently? Yes. If so, how do you think they can do that? Buy more studios, make more teams, buy support studios. Well, this is the biggest existential threat in the entire video game industry right now. Talk about it all the time. There's nothing more dangerous to gaming than how long games take to make. I've talked about it a bunch on here. You know, it's not as much as I think games as a service is dangerous. That's not the biggest danger. The biggest danger is not our kids growing up on mobile and won't buy consoles. The biggest danger is subscriptions going to change the way people buy content? None of these things. The most dangerous thing in the video game industry is how long games take to make, because that impacts every single other discussion point. The longer a game takes to make, the more expensive that game is to make, which means it is now harder to recoup your development costs. The longer a game takes to make, the longer it takes to pivot. Okay? You could be developing a game right now that has features that look super attractive to what the industry likes right now, but your game doesn't come out for 5 or 6 years. People may not be interested in that in 5 or 6 years. Or, in 5 to 6 years you may take to make that game, it might just be bad. And then, well, now we got another 5 to 6 years to try and recoup that and make our next game. Literally, how long games take to make makes every single other aspect of this industry more dangerous. They take far longer to make than TV shows. They take far longer to make than movies. They take far longer to make than CDs, music. They take far longer to make than any piece of entertainment, and they have massive budgets associated with them. That is the biggest threat. So should Sony be releasing more first-party PlayStation games? Yes, everyone should be releasing more games. But it's the situation we're in. Games take forever to make. They just do. They take so long. I say it all the time. That doesn't mean that I have an answer for devs. This isn't me telling devs bad, make your games faster. They're making them as fast as they can. It's not the developer's fault. I don't know. Well, we would need some sort of massive technological breakthrough to change that. And to me, it would be the greatest thing to ever happen to the video game industry if a way was found to drastically reduce development times. But I don't know if that'll ever happen. But it's the biggest threat in the gaming industry. There's nothing else. Nothing is as dangerous as how long games take to make. Batman Forever. I'm from the Middle East. Don't you think dev/pubs should make some adjustments to their games so it would be allowed to release in the Middle East? Because many of us living in there can't play new releases due to bans. Don't you think developers should release a Middle Eastern version of their games to allow millions of players to experience that game rather than not due to brand restriction? It's hard to say. So, in many ways, I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense, Batman Forever. Because the reality is that the Middle East is a major emerging market for gaming. I have had some devs directly tell me that their games really overperformed in that region compared to like what expectations were. I won't say the studios or anything like that. It's not like I'm getting told this every single day, but I have had specifically, I'll mention one major, I won't say the name, but a major PlayStation exclusive. That was one that was really highlighted to me as one of the major emerging markets that really overperformed for their game was the Middle East. So it's absolutely important, I think, as that continues to become a bigger and bigger market, to try and get your games launched there. On the other hand, games are a business, but they're also about creativity. So you have to ask how much of the creative intent are some studios willing to sacrifice their product on, right? So you have to ask that question as well. You have to, there's going to be some ethics discussion alongside all of this, and I won't get into all of that, but, everyone has different ethics, and there are some people in the West and in the Middle East that have very clashing ideology, and they may not be willing to make those changes. So it's tough. Batman, this is a tough question because I think you do raise some great points. But I don't know. That's a tough one to answer. But I would say if you could make simple changes, not huge, like they're tiny little things, might be worth making a Middle East only version. But if we're talking, you got to like drastically rework your game and the storyline and your characters and, who these characters are or how they're portrayed. I don't know if you would want to do that, to be honest with you. Drift23, hello Benji, hope you're well. My question to you is, do you think it is possible that Spider-Man 3, Red Dead Redemption 3, Jedi 3, Horizon 3, Ghost of Tsushima 3 will be cross-gen titles or released on PS5? Well, let's look at each one. Spider-Man 3, we're already in 2023. That game will have at least a 5-year dev cycle. You have to assume 2028. Cross-gen. I'll say Spider-Man 3 is cross-gen. End of the cycle and cross-gen with the next one. If the PS, because I'm assuming it's going to take 5 years. So that would be the next-gen consoles rumored to be targeting 2028. So Spider-Man 3, cross-gen. Red Dead 3, current-gen. I think Grand Theft Auto is launching next year. And if I had to guess, I would think Red Dead 3 might even already be in pre-production. Early pre-production. Obviously, GTA 6 would be the full focus of Rockstar right now. But I would not be surprised if Red Dead 3 is already in some form of pre-production. People like to point out that Red Dead 2 didn't sell anywhere near GTA 5. Well, it didn't, but you know how much it still sold? An absolute effing ton. They're going to make Red Dead Redemption 3. I mean, it would be absolutely foolish not to. We're talking about a game that has sold over 55 million copies. They're making Red Dead 3. So it might not be GTA 5 numbers, but we're still talking astronomical numbers. So assuming GTA 6 comes out next year, like I think it's going to, and assuming Red Dead 3 is in already some form of pre-production early, I think they could maybe get that game out 3 years later. Maybe. But this is assuming that there's work being done on it. If they haven't done anything with Red Dead 3 yet, then yeah, that's not till next gen. Jedi 3, current gen. That'll be out in 3 to 4 years. They've already started working on it. Current gen. Horizon 3, current gen. Ghost of Tsushima 3, next gen. Next gen or cross gen, because Tsushima 2 is not even out. So that's how we'll rank them. We'll go Spider-Man 3 cross-gen, Red Dead 3 potentially this gen if it's in pre-production, if not next gen. Jedi 3 is definitely this gen, Horizon 3 is definitely this gen, and Ghost of Tsushima 3 is definitely next gen or cross-gen. Just looking at the timing. Basically, every single game you have to look that it's probably going to take 5 years. And that's a good scenario, unfortunately. Blazing Flame, hey Benji, hope you're feeling better. Unfortunately, I'm not, but maybe at some point I will. Why do you think till this very day Mojang didn't release a Series XS version of Minecraft? They had an excuse for PS5. What about Xbox? Didn't that just get patented today? Apparently it's coming. I don't know if it was a patent or something. There was something Minecraft rated today. Not a patent. You wouldn't need a patent. It might have been a rating or something. Blazing Flame, it's apparently happening. Casual Gamer, what's your thoughts on the whole Red Dead 1 fiasco? How come all the remaster remake rumors were false? Why didn't Rockstar handle it better? Will it sell well? Is it bad for the industry if it does well? I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I don't like the fact that this port exists in this state. Even though it sounds like it's a fine port, it's just literally a port. Like, it's not any sort of remaster or remake. And the price tag on it. Rockstar, I was talking about this in my Discord. Rockstar is weird because Rockstar is both simultaneously one of the greatest developers / publishers in the entire world, and at the same time, one of the worst. You look at the extremely high quality bar of GTA 5, you look at the extremely high quality bar of Red Dead Redemption 2, and then you look at the extremely low caliber bar of the Grand Theft Auto trilogy and the extremely low caliber bar of this Red Dead Redemption release. Like, you're talking about a freaking they go from the top of the line to about the bottom of the line for Rockstar. So I personally wish Rockstar took great more care into their older games. Clearly this is a low priority for them. And again, this isn't me saying that the PS4 port is bad, because it's not. From what I understand from seeing what Digital Foundry says, like, it's a solid port, but that is literally what it is. It's a port of the game. It is not a remaster. It is not a remake. I wish they did put more energy into their classics, but clearly Rockstar sees this as a low priority thing, because they put, I mean, we've seen two examples now. Whether it's the Grand Theft Auto trilogy or this Red Dead 1 port, they're putting in minimal effort on them. And again, that's not me saying that the devs did a bad job, because this is another studio porting it. I'm not saying they did a bad job porting the game. It sounds like they did a fantastic job porting the game. I'm saying it should have been a remake, or it should have been a full-on remaster. Just porting it is just the lowest effort you could put into it. So, but that seems to be their MO for their classics. They did the same thing, lowest effort possible in Grand Theft Auto trilogy. And that's not me saying it's the devs' faults. It's me saying the strategy, what they're going to do, the business decisions on it. I wish they put more into these projects, but they're clearly not. Cookie Cutter. Hey, Benji, do you think Ubisoft could partner with Marvel and start making Marvel games in the near future? Sure. They're making Star Wars game, and they're making Avatar. These are both properties owned by Disney. Disney owns Fox, so they own Avatar, and they own Lucasfilm, so they own Star Wars. So there's nothing preventing them from making a Marvel game. No. Yeah, they absolutely could. Will they? I don't know, but sure. Clearly, there's already a relationship there between Disney and Ubisoft. Ghost Tunnels. How's Helldivers 2 tracking? Do you think it will do well, or could it get overshadowed by other releases? Do you think Helldivers 2 will do well enough to grant a sequel or even acquisition of Arrowhead? Hard to say, because there's almost nothing out about this game. I mean, we saw that cool trailer, but there's no release date yet. There's no additional real info. I would say Helldivers 2 is the sort of game... Depends when they launch it. If this game, I think it's still targeting this year. I think they haven't delayed it till 2024 officially. If this was a game that like they're planning to launch in October, don't do it, man. Which they wouldn't. They have Spider-Man that month. If it's still really going to come this year, stick it in December. The only other thing in December is Avatar. Or stick it in November. Like I said, there's not much competition in November. There's really not. It's wide open. So I think it could do well, even if it's this year still. But November and December are wide open. The only threat is Call of Duty. Like, that's it. And that's not to say that Call of Duty is no threat, but one game's not going to dominate that entire month. Marvel Fanatic, hi, good to see you back. When do you think we will see more of Wolverine, Iron Man, Black Panther, Wonder Woman? When do you think these titles will release? From what I understand, Black Panther's super early in development. Iron Man's super early in development. The Black Panther Captain World War II game is probably pretty decently far along. Wonder Woman, I don't know if that game still exists. So I would say Wolverine... I kind of feel like that's next year, which sounds shocking because Spider-Man 2 is this year, but the Wolverine team is separate from the Spider-Man team from what I understand. From what I understand, like maybe there's a few people that go back and forth between the projects, but from what I understand, it's mostly there's the Spider-Man 2 team and the Wolverine team. So that game's been in development for a little while. Unless they're having development problems on it, which is always possible because this is a new character they're tackling, I would say Wolverine potentially comes out next holiday. I don't think that's like an early next year game, but maybe next holiday, fall season. Iron Man and Black Panther, the EA games are, from what I understand, very far away, 3-4 years, so I don't expect anything out of that anytime soon. The Black Panther World War II Cap game, it's been in development for a little bit now. Maybe next year or 2025, 2024 or 2025 for that game. Wonder Woman, I don't know if it still exists. I don't know what's going on with that game. Jason Benjamin. So Ed Boon confirms in an interview that after MK1, they're returning to work on Injustice 3. Oh, did he really? Dude, this makes me very happy. With IGN, when do you think Injustice 3 will be announced and released? Well, this makes me happy because I personally love the Injustice games. 3 years after MK11, so I would say 2026. Injustice 3 will probably be 2026. Sounds PP7. Benji, when do you make of the layoffs at WB Games? Yeah, Montreal. Yep, after Gotham Knights. Do you think we'll still see the other DC game they had in development, or will they become more of a support studio? It's hard to say. WB doesn't have any money. That's like one of the secrets right now that no one talks about. They have no money. Now, Barbie just got them a lot of money, so that was a much needed cash influx. But like I've seen a lot of people be like, why hasn't WB's marketing been that good, like outside of Barbie, and why, like for movies and stuff, like why is WB not putting more like effort behind, you know, Blue Beetle's marketing and all this sort of stuff? They don't have money. They don't have cash. This has been like one of the secrets that like people that if you don't super follow like the entertainment side, like if you only engage with WB through gaming, that's one thing people don't know. They don't have much money right now. Like they are cash poor. They're a cash poor company. So that's going to affect gaming as well. Now, gaming has been a bright spot for them. Hogwarts Legacy was a huge hit. And Mortal Kombat 1 will be a huge hit. But how that will affect Montreal, I suspect they'll still get to make games, but maybe much smaller games. I don't know. It's hard to say. All right. How long have I been going? We're going to go for about 10, 15 more minutes, and then I'm out. Did I miss any super chats or channel members? Because we're going to do like 10 or 15 more, and then I'm out. Nope. Okay, so we're rapid firing through a few more. Rapid firing through a few more. For the last 10 or 15. Jed Gangman, hi Benji, wanted to ask you about the Game of the Year race. Fun question. Do you think Baldur's Gate 3 is the main front runner over Tears of the Kingdom? Man, this is tough. Do you think that Tears of the Kingdom being a sequel hurts it, or Baldur's Gate 3 being a turn-based RPG hurts it? So before Baldur's Gate 3, I was dead set it's Tears of the Kingdom. Like, there's just no doubt. Now, to me, it's fierce competition. I would say between those two, it's a coin flip. I think that those two could really split the vote. I don't think it's going to be Starfield. I know it's going to upset some people, me saying that, but I think it will probably has a good chance of getting nominated, but I don't see it getting the same level of critical consensus as those two games. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Starfield comes out and it's a 95 meta. I don't expect that, though. So to me, it probably will truly come down to Tears of the Kingdom and Baldur's Gate 3. And to me, that's actually a coin flip. And before Baldur's Gate 3, to me, it was dead set, no question. Tears of the Kingdom is going to get Game of the Year. Now, I could see either one of them winning it. I honestly have no idea. Either one of those could get it. I'll be surprised if it's any other game, though. I'll say that. I think it truly does come down to those two at the Game Awards. And I have no idea which one takes it. No idea. Probably Zelda if I had to bet, but I don't think that's a lock anymore. Arabic Gamer, Spider-Man 2 is banned in Middle East. You can't buy it digitally or physically anywhere, and there's no official statement. That is surprising to me. Do you think they will adjust it / censor release it? Spidey is huge in Middle East. Why is that game banned in the Middle East? That one is a surprise to me, if I'm being honest. It doesn't on the outside look like a game that would be banned there. It's only got a T rating. I'm surprised. Arabic, you're surprising me. I did not know this information. I have no idea why that game got banned. I don't know. Clearly there's something in it that the governments do not like, but I have no idea what. I've gone and on. Should have delayed to November. People will still be playing Spider-Man. Yeah, like I said, November's wide open. I think publishers are kind of dropping the ball on this. You should not be that afraid of Call of Duty. Like, don't launch Call of Duty week. But outside of that, there's almost no competition. Again, a couple games that'll do well. Super Mario RPG will do well. You know, the Like a Dragon game will do well for what it is. But the only game in that entire month that's like, oh, wow, that could like actually impact our sales, it's Call of Duty, and there's not a single other one. They should not be that afraid of it. Jason Plays says delaying closer to Halloween is probably a good thing. I do think it's better than the original date. For Alan Wake, I do think it's better than the original date. What's up, Perfect Shogun? Liam, do you think that Microsoft / Bethesda is very confident in Starfield, given that they've given 2 weeks for reviewers in comparison to when they've given less time for other reviewers? I do think they feel good about it, Liam. That's why I said I'll be shocked if this is below 85. I can't see it. 90 plus is tough, but I will be surprised if it's below 85. And I think they feel good about it. Apparently, Jason Plays does some cool No Man's Sky content. Kazimo's saying, hey, I love your No Man's Sky content to Jason Plays. Awesome. Venom Harness, when do you think id Software Machine Games will show footage of their upcoming games? And when do you think they will release them? Great question. You know, there's been a rumor floating that it is rebooting Quake, but I have no idea if there's any truth to that. Whenever I say there's a rumor, it's not like me reporting I've investigated into the Quake reboot. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it is a rumor that has floated around that id's rebooting Quake. I don't know at all if that's true. They've indicated they're not doing Doom next, so that does make sense to be Quake, unless they're doing a new IP. That's really about it. Like, it's going to be either, if they're not doing Doom, it's going to either be some form of Quake or a new IP. Those are the only things that really make sense. So, who knows? Machine Games, they still haven't shown Indiana Jones. I would think soon. It's been in development for a long time, but we'll have to see. I would guess that maybe the Game Awards, if it's ready to show, and if it's not at the Game Awards, sometime next year. Sam Rochter, do you think licensed games is on the rise? Yes, and is booming in popularity. Absolutely. Do you think more developers / publishers are ready to make licensed games? Yep. Do you think we will get more licensed kid-friendly games? Yep. Whenever I was on EA's earning call, that was one thing they were talking about, is doubling down on big established brands. Some of those will be brands that EA owns, but as we're seeing with Star Wars Jedi Survivor, some of that's going to be licensed work too. And as we see EA now making an Iron Man and a Black Panther game, the reality is that licensed games are doing well. For the most part, there's going to be some misses, but Jedi Survivor was a huge hit. I have a feeling that this Star Wars Outlaws, I think, is going to be huge for Ubisoft. The buzz on that game and the social media metrics are incredible. So Outlaws should do huge. Spider-Man 2 we know is going to be massive. If Avatar reviews well, I think Avatar is going to do super well. It's not going to be as big as the biggest Star Wars or Marvel games, but I think it could do really, really well. Again, if it reviews good, it needs to get good reviews. Yeah. Licensed games are fully in flux right now. Absolutely. I've gone anon. I've got a question, Benji, not strictly about gaming news, but how do you share all the numbers? Do you have some sources, or do you post analysis on publicly available data? This has shifted throughout my time. So I still talk about numbers a lot, but I honestly do most of that here on YouTube. My Twitter account, I still talk about sales like for big milestones and stuff, but my Twitter account has more shifted to like gaming industry commentary, I would say. It's not so much about strictly sales data. Like early on Twitter, I was sharing like the UK charts every week. I was like talking about the Japanese charts every week. And I've kind of shifted away from that. To me now it's more like I do some just general news sharing and then a lot of just commentary on the industry. Like, the thing I always say is like the thing I think I'm better at than number crunching is analyzing the industry. Like that's it. Like the overarching industry. What choices the publishers are making. If these are good decisions, if these are bad decisions, if things are going to go well for them by doing this. Are they making a correct decision in this game or an incorrect decision on this game? That's where I feel like my strength is more. I'm usually a pretty good predictor about how things are going to work out for these publishers and the choices they're going to make. I consider myself a lot better at that than just like making pie graphs and bar graphs and analyzing every single little tiny minute number. Like there was a time I enjoyed that. I actually enjoy that less as time goes on. Now I care a lot more about just looking at the industry, the big players, what they're going to do. I find that just way more interesting nowadays, to be honest, because part of it is because so much has shifted away from just sales data. Sales are important. They're super cool. I love getting the numbers, but like so much of the industry now isn't just about how a game sells. It's about, like we talked about, subscriptions and like other various branchings out of chains of I'm trying to think of how I'm going to say it, like different storefronts and all. Just there's like way more to it than just how much does a game sell. Still love that sort of stuff, but so it's changed. There was a time where it was publicly sourced info, and I have I gotta be careful what I say here. I have worked for various retailers specifically about selling games for more than, man, I guess it's been like 15 years of my life now. So I've had a ton of insight directly in the field looking at what's selling. I used to have a lot of data on that, actually. A lot. Nowadays, a little less so. But I also am less interested in purely about sales. So I would say most of the sales stuff I talk about now is publicly sourced information. That being said, devs tell me off the record how their games are doing. Now, does that mean all the time? No. But like I will literally have devs inbox me on Twitter and they'll say, hey dude, our game is doing super good. And sometimes they'll even tell me what markets they're doing super good. And sometimes they're excited too, man. You know, this isn't like I'm saying every single developer just tells me all of their info, because they don't at all. It's like just some select people. But believe it or not, a lot of game devs and public people that work at publishers are super excited about this stuff as well, and they want to talk about it, and they know that that's what I talk about, so they'll hit me up in the DMs. So it's like a big combo of things. I would say that 90% of what I talk about, because I won't share anything off the record. Like if someone inboxes me, I won't go into details. I've had some absolutely insane stuff told to me behind the scenes. Like crazy. I won't even go into it, but we're talking very high level stuff from very high level people have inboxed me some crazy stuff. I will never share anything off the record publicly. So 90% of what I'm talking about, publicly sourced stuff. And then just my opinions off of that publicly sourced data. Every once in a while, if someone's comfortable with me saying something, you know, I'll say something. But I much more value being a guy that, you know, someone at a major publisher can come to and just talk to about their stuff and know that I'm not going to leak it, than being the guy that's like, oh, you told me this number, now I'm going to throw it out there. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm not going to talk about off the record stuff much at all. I would much rather be seen as someone that's trustworthy to talk to about that. Danger Man, maybe some Gamescom November announcements incoming, maybe, but I don't think there's a whole lot left to be announced for this year. Maybe a few smaller games, but I don't think there's going to be much. For some reason, everyone decided to go into October, except for a few exceptions. But for some reason this year, like September is packed too, but October is just freaking bonkers. Everyone just decided that we're all sending everything out to just do battle in October. Nostalgia Gamer. Is my audio still good? Yeah. Nostalgia Gamer. Hi, did you hear that PlayStation delayed multiple games? Yep. Yeah, that was in their earnings. Any guesses why? Do you think PlayStation will release 2 or more exclusives a year? Do you think they will start pumping games more frequently? Again, they need to release more games. Ideally, 3 to 4 big games a year. I really like Phil Spencer's goal of 1 big game per quarter. I know that's for Xbox, but I think that's an extremely healthy place to be for a platform holder. If you can have 1, nice sized exclusive per quarter, I think you're in a great spot. 2, I think, is too few. 3 should be really the minimum every platform holder's targeting. There's going to be smaller projects too, but I think every platform holder should be counting on at least 3 big flagship games per year for their console from first party. 2 is just too few, not enough. And ideally, like I said, ooh, my power just flickered. Hopefully we're still good. My power just flickered. Ideally 1 per quarter would be excellent. And yeah, it sounds like they did delay multiple games. I keep telling you guys that people keep asking me, like, why isn't Sony showing off all of these games yet? And I keep saying they're probably just not ready. And then you're seeing these delays. I mean, that lines up. That's why they're not showing you all of these games coming from all of these studios, because they just aren't ready to be shown. King of the Dry Bones, do you have high hopes for Mario RPG? Absolutely. I've never played Mario RPG, so I'm excited for it. I think it'll do well. Don't expect like, Mario Wonder sales out of Mario RPG. But yeah, I think it's going to do super good. Super good. TSWS Gaming, I still want to interview you. Oh, man. Thank you. That's very kind of you to say, actually. Hopefully your mental health as well. Well, as we're talking about, the mental health's a disaster. Hopefully we can set up an interview sometime. I've fallen off a lot this year on my coverage. Like, I'm just being straight up honest with you. I know I haven't been as good on Twitter as I used to be, or X. I always call it Twitter, but I know my YouTube hasn't been as good. I haven't been making like any podcast appearances. I think the last one I was on was, I don't think I've been on a podcast since Kind of Funny last year. I don't think. I was on Kind of Funny Xcast last year, and I don't think I've made a podcast appearance since then. I've just been a freaking mess, guys. I'm in rough waters. So hopefully, man, hopefully I can get my life on track, and hopefully we can set up an interview sometime soon, man. So just know, TSWS, it's not me avoiding you or anything like that. I have not done like anything. I haven't done anything. Danger Man, I'm building a new PC tomorrow and then a new monitor on Saturday. Hype, dude. Congratulations, Danger Man. Creepa Evo X. Hi, Benji. Blessings to you. Blessings to you, Creepa. I hope you're doing great. Assassin's Creed Gamer. Hi, Benji. Do you think Ubisoft is going to remake Assassin's Creed 1 in the near future? Maybe if Mirage does well. If Mirage does well, do you think we will get more classic Assassin's Creed games? I kind of have a feeling the thing that will decide if they do more Creed remakes is if this is if this Assassin's Creed 4 remake that's rumored is real. It's rumored that the studio that is making Skull and Bones is also remaking Assassin's Creed 4. I would say if that remake is real and it comes out and sells well, they'll probably explore more remakes. Yeah, I think it depends more on that than Mirage. Personally, if Mirage does well, anything like that helps. But I think they'll probably look specifically at how the Assassin's Creed 4 remake sells. Nintendo the Otaku, I'm going to bet 1 million plus concurrent players for Starfield on Steam. It's possible. It's tracking like that. Whether it will do it or not depends, but it is tracking like a game that can do 1 million plus. What up, Big Bad Mo? Big Mad Mo saying good morning, folks. What's up, man? Blazing Flame, when do you think we'll see more of Kingdom Hearts 4? Oh, that's a great question. When do you think it will be released? Do you think we'll have a Marvel world? I suspect you'll see more Kingdom Hearts 4 next year. The focus for them has been clearly Final Fantasy 16 and now Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. Dragon Quest is in there somewhere, but it sounds like that game might have gone into development hell. I suspect you'll see Kingdom Hearts 4 next year. Now, whether it will release next year, I don't know. But I think they'll probably start talking about it next year because they've been so focused on 16 and Rebirth. And Rebirth is right around the corner. They're still saying it's this winter, early next year, so probably January or February. So I think they'll start talking Kingdom Hearts 4 next year. Cody Nick says, hang in there, man. You're killing it. Thank you, Cody. I'm trying to keep going, man. I'm trying. Jason Plays says thinks that 1 million beats almost any single player game. It does. I think the only game that's over 1 million that's single player Cyberpunk. Let me double check that. I believe that's it. Cyberpunk did over 1 million, but I believe that is the only single player only game that did it. Yep, it is. Yep. So if Starfield pulls it off, it will be only the second single player only game to pull off 1 million plus. The only other one was Cyberpunk 2077. So it would be a massive accomplishment if it does it. Yep. It would indeed. It would indeed. The only other one we've seen do it is Cyberpunk. Dangerman thinks Starfield's going to hit 90 plus meta. I think it's in play. It's in play. JCat says Square Enix is grossly mismanaged. I hate to say it, but JCat, I agree with you. I agree with you. Square Enix and Ubisoft, man. Those two are rough. Which is funny because, like, if I would have went back to, like, Xbox One and PlayStation 4 gen, Ubisoft would have been one of the ones I was pointing at as, like, one of the best. Like, there was a run, people forget, there was a run there where even if you didn't love Watch Dogs or The Division 1, there were these new IPs. They were massive out of the gate. Watch Dogs 1, huge seller out of the gate and a brand new IP. You know, The Division, huge seller out of the gate and a brand new IP. Success with the Assassin's Creed franchise. Far Cry games hitting, you know, huge sales numbers. Like, there was a period of time during the PS4 and Xbox One gen where, like, dude, Ubisoft was on fire. And now I consider them one of the worst ran companies in the industry. You know, sorry, no offense if someone from Ubisoft happens to see this stream. Unlikely, but if they do, I apologize. But I just think there's a lot of bad decisions being made. And Square Enix is also one of the worst, yeah. Yep. Logical error. How many total players, amount of players, including Game Pass, do you think Starfield will have in the first week? Also, what are your hobbies, Benji, except gaming? What sort of player numbers for Starfield? Total players? How long did it take Halo to hit 20 million? Let's see. It didn't take long. I think it was less than 2 months for Halo Infinite to hit 20 million players. People forget how big that game was out of the gate because it fell off so hard. So they announced in January 26th that they hit over 20 million. The game officially launched in December, but it had multiplayer launch before that on November 15th, I believe, if I remember. So we'll say right around 2 months for 20 million players. I think Starfield will hit faster than that because I think it'll be way bigger on PC than Halo Infinite was. Way bigger. I think they'll hit 20 million players in a month. That's what I'll say. There's going to be people that look at that and they're going to say, Benji, you're crazy, but I don't think I'm crazy. Players, we're not talking sales. I think they might hit 20 million players in a month on Starfield. If Halo Infinite did it in 2, and the counter argument's going to be, well, Benji, you know, Halo Infinite was free to play. Yeah, but if you look at those free to play numbers on Steam, they're not that impressive. Halo Infinite's all-time peak on Steam, I mean, they're not like nothing, but we're not talking insane. Like, Starfield's Steam numbers are going to annihilate Halo Infinite's. Annihilate. It won't be close. Halo Infinite's all-time peak on Steam is 272,000. And we're thinking it's going to do, Starfield's going to do 700,000 to a million. Like, annihilate in size what Halo Infinite did on Steam. Plus, it'll be massive on consoles. So, the first week, I don't know. I'll predict 20 million players in a month. And my hobbies outside of gaming, well, the number one is combat sports. I'm obsessed with combat sports. So UFC, MMA, boxing, kickboxing, all combat sports. I would say I'm as obsessed with combat sports as I am with gaming. I'm a huge music head. I can play guitar. I can play piano. I've been in piano somewhat. I've been in bands. I've got a Schecter guitar sitting right here. I got a Schecter that I play. Metal. So music would be a huge one. Learning. Especially learning science in general, the sciences, but particularly I would say things about astronomy, the cosmos, the universe, space, and like tons of other stuff. I'm like one of those weird people that's like fascinated by everything. I'm like interested in everything. So for me, it's not really about finding hobbies or interests. It's about finding time. And to be honest, this might be one of the issues why I have so much mental health issues is my brain is always running 100 miles an hour all day, every day. So it makes it hard for me to like shut my brain down. I'm like too obsessed with everything. All right, I've been going a long time. Oh, you know what? We'll round it out to 2 hours because I've gone an hour and 55 minutes. So 5 minutes and I'm out. I'm sure you guys are bored of hearing me talk, but you know what? I love doing these streams. So 5 minutes. 5 minutes and I'm out. We'll end it right at 2 hours since we're so close to there anyways. JCat says, we know Sony didn't cover the entire development of Final Fantasy 16 because we saw, Square Enix income, amortized by the development cost of financial report. That's actually a great point, JCat. I forgot about that. Great thing to highlight. You are 100% correct. They did note that in their financials. So in my opinion, they got to stop. They got to stop right now. There should be never, Square Enix management should never make an exclusive Final Fantasy game again. Should never do it again. The only way they should do that is if Sony's going to fully fund the game. That would be what, if I was Square Enix management and Sony approached me about some sort of exclusivity deal on Final Fantasy 17 or whatever, I would literally go, are you paying for the entire development cost of this game? And if they say no, I would say, then the answer is no. Like, that's it. You're either going to fund this game fully or we're not doing it. Because having these delayed PC launches in particular is a huge issue. And then again, like I keep saying, Final Fantasy 17 or whatever on Xbox is not going to sell anywhere near the amount it's going to sell on PlayStation. But Phil Spencer's going to throw him a bag, and you're still going to get the same amount of sales on PlayStation. Like, that's the other secret here. If this game is on PlayStation 5, PC, and Xbox on day one, let's just say they're on all of them, I think PlayStation sales go down like 0%. I think the PlayStation Final Fantasy fans are buying it no matter what. So that means PC is all additional, and that means Xbox sales, regardless of size, is all additional. And then Phil is going to throw you some sort of Game Pass deal within 6 to 12 months of launch. Like, you're just throwing money away. It's just not wise unless they're going to literally pay for the game. And that's not just Square Enix. I feel that about any third party. If you are a third party publisher, you should not be making console exclusives in any way, shape, or form unless they are funding your game. Otherwise, it is a bad decision. Games are too expensive. You need every financial outlet you can get. Dan says, don't marketing expenses generally rival or exceed project costs? Sure, I'm saying everything. I'm saying the whole shebang. I'm saying I ain't spending a dime on this game. If you want this game exclusive and I'm a third party, I ain't spending a dime. You're paying for my marketing and you're paying for the whole freaking kit and caboodle, because otherwise, guys, it's just not worth it. You need every revenue stream possible for how expensive games are. And people will say, well, that's not a good deal for the publisher. Good. That's why you don't sign the exclusives. That's why those games go everywhere. That's, yes, exactly correct. Outside of exceptionally rare circumstances, that would not be worth it to the platform holder. Like, I don't think it's worth it for Sony to pay for the entire publishing cost and the entire development cost of Final Fantasy. Thus, it should go multi-platform. Jason Benjamin, do you think we will get a Pro Xbox to compete with PS5 Pro, or will Microsoft stick with XS? I don't know. You know, it seems very clear PS5 Pro is real. Like, anyone that doubted Henderson's reporting, it's like locked now, dude. Like, I already considered it very trustworthy report after he got multiple things right with hardware. I've talked about this before. Whoever Tom Henderson's hardware source is at Sony is like immaculate. After that dude correctly got the DualSense Edge, the InZone line of hardware, the Q Lite, all correct, and now it very much appears he got that diskless PS5 correct report as well. Like, if that thing really does get announced and shown, like, clearly this dude, Tom Henderson, has like an immaculate hardware source at Sony. So at that point, you can just assume, yes, PS5 Pro is real. So I would have thought Microsoft would want to compete with that, but everything Phil has said has indicated they're not going to. So we'll have to see if that's a good decision or not. We'll have to see. I don't know. My hunch right now is they're not going to, and that's strictly just because of Phil's comments. All right, it's 2 hours, so I'm leaving. Let me just make sure at the end of the stream down here there was no super chats, that there was no channel member questions. Ross Wilson, what are your expectations for Gamescom opening night live next week? Not much. Jeff is hyping this a lot less than he does a lot of his other shows. He's commented that this show is mostly about updates and not new announcements. So I would say, like, if you're tuning into Gamescom opening night live, I don't know this, Jeff didn't tell me this or anything like that, but I would just go in not expecting much. Except for maybe some cool new trailers and updates. Like, we know that we're going to see some Alan Wake 2 stuff there. Go in there with those sort of expectations and you might have fun. I think if you're going in there expecting this to be like the Game Awards where you get a bunch of brand new announcements, I would say you might have a bad time. But just go in expecting updates. New trailers for already announced games and that sort of thing. And then Benji says, are Insomniac, last channel member question, then I'm out. Benji says, are Insomniac developing games like 50% faster than anyone else? The industry seems to need 5 years where Insomniac might just need 3. Is that correct? Well, they need a bit more than 3. You know, Spider-Man's going to be 5 years after, right? 2018 to 2023. But they also have had a lot of games in between there. And so I would say that Insomniac clearly have an incredible pipeline. They clearly have an incredible pipeline. And they're not the only ones. Obsidian's another one you can point to that has an incredible pipeline. I think like every first party at Sony should be talking to Insomniac about how they run their studio. Now, it doesn't mean that every Sony studio needs to just, carbon copy what Insomniac's doing, because every culture is going to be a little different. Every studio is going to be a little different. But since Insomniac is first party, I think leadership at every single studio within Sony should be reaching out to them just to like ask, like, hey, what is your guys' process? Like, what is your pipeline look like? How do you balance, multiple games in development at once? Because they always are. Insomniac's one of those studios like Obsidian where it's like they're never just working on one thing. They have several things going. Like, how do you, balance that and divide up the leadership and who tackles what? Like, that is such a strong resource within Sony. Every single studio should just at least be talking to them. That doesn't mean that you're going to go out there and be like, well, Insomniac does this, so we're not going to do this exact same thing, because it just might not work for the culture of your studio. But I guarantee that you can learn something from Insomniac. That it's not a secret. You have this giant like success story here. They're not the biggest studio in the industry either. Like, they're big. They're not like tiny, but they're not, 2,000 people like you see at some of these Ubisoft teams. Like, they're a good sized studio, but they're not unbelievably massive. And yet they're able to put out high quality AAA games at a very regular pace. Like, clearly there's something to learn there. So yeah, they should all be reaching out to them. So absolutely. I will say I've had limited contact with some people at Insomniac, and they seem all like great people. So clearly they got something going on good there. All right, guys, I got to bounce. I am out of here. Thank you for a good stream. I didn't read the poll results. Let me do that really quick. I asked you, what will Starfield's Metacritic be? The number one vote, 49% of you, but boy, it was close. 49% of you say 80 to 89. That's where I'm going to, but super high on there, like the 88, 89. You guys are saying 80 to 89 at 49%. 44% of you voted 90 plus, so extremely close. 5% said 70, 79, and only 1% said below 70. So yeah, clearly we're all expecting pretty high reviews. All right, guys, I got to go. Thanks for a good turnout. Thanks for trying to encourage me as I navigate 2023 and hopefully make it through to the end. Thank you for all of the kind words. Thank you for all of the encouragement all the time. I'm sorry I'm such a mopey, pathetic mess. I'll try to be better. I'll try to be better. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great one, and thank you so much. Stay safe, play some games, and I'll catch you guys all either, here next time on YouTube or on Twitter very soon. Thanks, guys. Bye.